News at 12 midday. Update you on all the running stories and connect you to the newsmakers. Citi News.
It's midday. Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Citi Prime News, which is live from our studios at number 11 Dr. Morton Loop in Adabraka, Accra. It's also live on all our partner stations across the country. In the Western region, you are listening to us on Adrimpa 100.7 FM in Takwa and Beach 105.5 FM in Takrady. In the Bono region, we are on Greener FM 95.9 in Sunyani. In the Ashanti region, we are on Focus 94.3 FM in Kumasi and Orange 107.9 FM also in Kumasi. In the Volta region, you are listening to us on Revival 99.3 FM in Tajewu and VOV Radio 95.7 FM in Hohoi. In the Northern region, we are on Radio Bimbala 91.9 FM and Upper East, we are on Quality 88.7 FM in Garu, and in the Upper West region, we are on Tungsong 97.3 FM in Wa. The news is also live across the globe on CitiNewsroom.com. I am Wilma Ububi-Sakoman, and this afternoon I'm here with
Charles Osukumi.
Coming up over the next 1 hour, following a surge in COVID-19 cases in China, Ghana Health Service says all persons arriving from China is required to present a negative PCR test.
Anybody traveling China into Ghana have to do a 48-hour PCR and get tested on irrespective of vaccination status.
Also coming up, Minority predicts a further depreciation of the local currency from January to June before a possible IMF board approval in the second quarter of this year.
Government's good for oil policy will not make any major impacts on the price of petroleum products. The cedi will inevitably depreciate further from January to June.
Still ahead, former old students of the Commonwealth Hall and Mensasaba Hall pledges unflinching support to continuing students of these halls protesting the university management for transferring them from their halls.
Private hostels accommodations, which are 4 times more expensive than what they are paying at the moment.
And later, stakeholders optimistic of stability of prices of fuel products in the first quarter of 2023.
A bigger 3, you would have expected to see around 10, 11. Unfortunately, what you have now is a 12.4 situation for petrol.
Stay tuned as we bring you details of all that and more on the Citi Prime News.
Citi Prime News at 12 midday. Update you on all the running stories and connect you to the newsmakers.
Many thanks for your time this afternoon. We'll settle for the details of our stories now. The Ghana Health Service says any individual traveling to Ghana from China will be required to have tested negative for COVID-19 in a PCR test conducted 48 hours before arriving into the country. The service says this has become necessary following a surge in COVID-19 cases in China. The Asian country has seen an increase in cases after it began easing restrictions. Already, some countries are restricting flights from China. Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Kumar-Boaji, says in the interim, a negative PCR test will be required.
We are tightening the restrictions with specific emphasis to China because the traffic between Ghana and China is heavy, and I'm sure you're aware of what is going on there, despite the fact that they have a 92% coverage of vaccination. So that presents a different scenario, and that is why yesterday we changed in consultation with the key stakeholders, revised the protocol that says anybody traveling out from China into Ghana have to do a 48-hour PCR and get tested on irrespective of vaccination status. That means that if you're a Ghanaian trader and you are returning, you go through the same process. Whoever goes through China is originating travel from China will go through the same processes. We have also established a surveillance system where even among those who who are allowed to walk in freely, we do some sampling with their consent to see how safe, even in that group, are we having some who are positive to continue to review our position. So those are the two key things that we have added to the system. We will also be doing some testing at the Aflao border and the neighboring border, next to Aflao, because that's another route where people trying to avoid passing through the airport are likely to use. So those are areas that we are, those are the new areas we're talking about, the surveillance and then the review of the protocol for people traveling in from China.
Dr. Patrick Kumabwaji added that Ghana recorded 18 new cases of COVID-19 during the Christmas period.
We started just around Christmas. We have an active case of between 8, 9, and 10. As we speak now, we have an active case of 18. The interesting thing that the highest number has come from Bono East, which means that it's not Greater Accra remains quiet. So as far as the numbers are concerned, we don't have deaths. We have also not had any deaths in a couple of weeks now from COVID, and we also don't have anybody who is who is having a severe condition of admission or in a critical situation. So that's where the situation is. But I keep saying that we've been there before, so we need to look at. And the mere fact that we don't have so much, the proportion vaccinated, so it's high, relatively high, but not good enough to give us a good protection.
You heard the Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Kumabwaji. Now, the former old students of the Commonwealth Hall and Mensa Saba Hall have expressed their unflinching support to continuing students of these two halls who are protesting against the university management for transferring them from their halls. The university took the decision as a punitive measure after a clash between some students led to the destruction of the bust of John Mensa Saba. The students, however, have expressed their displeasure about the move, insisting that the decision is ill-intended and poses financial challenges on them, as the new halls are thrice expensive than their current hall of residence. We are joined over the phone lines by our colleague and my colleague Hansen Ajiman, who is on campus to tell us more. Good afternoon, Hansen. If you can hear me, what was the situation, the security situation on campus like?
Well, ahead of this particular gathering by students, former students of Commonwealth Hall and former students of Mensa Saba Hall, the university management released a statement indicating that all forms of gatherings have been barred in the university, and so as a result, some security deployment was made. Already, as a result of the clash that happened some months ago, there have been security beef up on campus. So if you come to campus today at various vantage points, particularly areas close to Mensa Saba Hall and areas close to the Commonwealth Hall, there are security officers stationed at these vantage points, made up of the university's internal security and officers from the Ghana Police Service, basically to make sure that nothing untoward occurs as a result of this gathering by these former students.
Now, quickly, what are the issues raised by these old students?
The old students basically believe that the university is using this as an opportunity to create a gap between the current student body and the old students. And they think that the university believes the sort of relationship that exists between the current student and the old student is a great force that usually trumps over any other thing that the university that decides to bring up, which is not in their favor of students. So the old students first are of the notion that this decision to transfer the students from Commonwealth Hall and Mensa Saba Hall to other halls is basically to create a gap and to weaken the front of the students and the old students. The second point is that they think that the decision in itself is not in the best interest of students. And the argument they make is that, one, the decision did not go in accordance with the principles of natural justice. And they make the point that if anybody is to be sanctioned, the university is supposed to invite them and to query them and question them, give them a platform to give their say. However, this they say did not happen. This did not happen. The second point they argue on is that if you look at the timing of the decision or the announcement of the decision, they indicate that this was made some 3 weeks ago, prior to the Christmas festivities, and they believe that the students have not been given enough time to prepare to change the hall. And they tie this to the current economic situation, arguing that if you look at the traditional halls, their fees hover around 1,500 cedis, while the new halls where they are sending them to, the fees range between 3,000 to 4,000 for some of them. So they are arguing that if you look at it, some of these students will be forced to pay twice or thrice what they are paying now, and that is a problem because for most of them they do not have money to do so, and even if they can raise the money, they've not been given enough time to do so. So these are the concerns of the former old students, and they are expressing their support to the students and indicating that they are ever ready to give them any form of support they need to make sure that this fight that they are fighting against the management becomes successful.
Many thanks for that update. That was my colleague Hansen Ajiman over there. Now we have a voice of some of the old students who have assured the current students that steps have been taken to reverse the decision in court.
First of all, I think that it's a knee-jerk reaction. I think it doesn't, really solve the perennial problem of accommodation issues, but it's also a reactionary one. And I believe that when there's a problem, you must find a solution to it, not a reaction to it. What the university management is a reaction to the issues that are happening, using that to cover themselves, in quote unquote, they're incompetent. Because, some 10 years ago, we were able to do negotiations, we were able to, house every student on campus. 10 years down the line, we are facing academic problems. It's not able to solve it this time. They're reacting to it, and that's a problem. We need a solution, not a reaction. Other private hostels accommodations, which are 4 times more expensive than what they are paying at the moment. And even the 1,500 or so that they're paying now, I tell you, some of us have to step in to help them pay.
So your argument that this poses a cost concern on the students?
Well, it's an existential threat to the academic pursuit because they can't carry on. More or less, they have to terminate their education.
But somebody will argue that in these private hostels, there are other students who are equally there. So this is something that has been running in the university.
Exactly. Those who are there, they knew from the start that they were going there. Either they had the means or they had the time to prepare to go there. But these are people who are here because mostly this is what they can afford. And when I say they can afford, for them, it takes a lot of sacrifice to even be able to afford that fees.
Prior to this gathering, the university released a statement indicating that all forms of public gathering by whosoever in this university without prior approval is illegal of a sort. Have you faced any challenges so far?
I don't think that was even aimed at us. They said outsiders, public gathering. We are students, we are alumni. Nothing, no statute, no law prevents us from coming here. So I saw it, but I don't think it related to us. Whoever drafted it, I don't think they aimed it at us. Everybody here is a student or a member of the old students alumni. And we have every right to be here. We don't need permission from anybody to come to campus.
You had some old students of Commonwealth Hall and Mensa Sabah Hall.
We'll stay in the education sector. The Minister, Yao Osei Educhum, says science, technology, engineering and mathematics education will receive a major boost this year. The minister, speaking to journalists at the Busumtri constituency, where he is also a member of parliament, said government is working aggressively to transform schools in villages and towns across the country. He further added that the creative arts education space will be given the needed attention as government prepares to open the first creative arts senior high school at Kwaraso in the Ashanti region.
2023, we're going to pursue the various government policies in education. Science, technology, engineering, mathematics education is going to get a boost. Creative Arts High School, we are making preparations to open it in Kumasi, Kwadaso. In addition, our Communities of Excellence program, where we transform schools in our villages and towns, is also going to see implementation in the upcoming year. National Education Leadership Institute, an opportunity to train the 21st century leaders of education institution, is all going to see a start in the 2023 year. So it's going to be an exciting year for those of us in education, an exciting year for the country as a whole.
Minister of Education, Dr. Yao Osei Educhum.
We'll go back to the University of Ghana, where management of the university says the ban on all student events and gatherings, as announced last year by the Dean of Students, is still in place. A statement signed by the Registrar of the University, Emilia Eje-Mensah, also says no outside bodies are permitted to hold functions on the university's campus without written approval of the Vice-Chancellor or the Registrar. It noted that disregard for these directives will be met with appropriate sanctions.
Still at the University of Ghana, the Pro-Vice Chancellor for Students and Academic Affairs of that university, Professor Gordon Awandare, has justified the increase in fees for the academic year, saying it is in accordance with the law. Students of the university have decried the recent increase, describing it as astronomical. But Professor Awandare explains that the university has not increased its fees since the 2019 academic year, hence the recent move. Professor Awandare blamed the confusion on the communication from the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, GTEC.
We confirm that we've increased our fees, and we are increasing the fees exactly according to the law. What is going on is that the communication that came from GTEC misled the students into thinking that the fee increment was based on a specific 2021-2022 fee. So even if you were paying subsidized fees in 2021-2022, then we need to use that, which is completely wrong. If you read what Parliament normally approves, they approve it based on their last approval. There has to be a reference point. You approve it based on your last approval. And the last approval was 2019. Let me give you an example. There are some PhD programs that we were charging higher than what is approved. So when the approval came, we had to reduce them. Okay? So we applied the 15% on the reduced amount. You understand?
Yeah.
But you haven't heard the students talk about that one. For the majority of programs where we were charging lower than the approved amount, we had to reset to the approved amount and then apply the 15%. That's what the law says. Okay. The law says previously approved or the last approved. So it will be ridiculous to say that you should use whatever you used last year. So if we were charging illegal fees last year, we should use that.
Professor Gordon Awandare is the Pro-Vice Chancellor in charge of Students and Academic Affairs at the University of Ghana. Meanwhile, the Legon chapter of the Graduate Students Association of Ghana, GRASAG, has appealed to the management of the university to be considerate, bearing in mind the economic conditions pertaining in the country. Emmanuel Owusu speaks for GRASAG Legon chapter.
Well, we believe that further engagement would get our university management to understand our position at the moment. Because, see, we acknowledge the efforts that the universities are putting in place to ensure that the facilities run for our good, because we consume most of the facilities. But we're saying that, listen to us, look at our plight at the moment. We are impacted economically, and we cannot do much about it. Some of the things that a student goes are constant. Imagine you live far from University of Ghana and you are renting somewhere, Medina or somewhere, Bojo. Look at the transport cost. You're a PhD student. You would have to do academic research. These things are constant costs. You cannot dodge it as a student. You must endure it. You must go through it. So we are considering all these factors as against the fees that are going to be increased. We believe that a further engagement. Let's look at the subject holistically, and I think it's about time we have a national conversation on fee increments and at what point it must come in and at what point the university must also do that. So, my key question is that why would the university wait from 2019 and not increase from now? I'm not saying that it was a wise decision or it was a wrong decision, but you want to look at it holistically and at what point some of these fees must be increased.
Okay.
Emmanuel Owusu speaks for the University of Ghana chapter of Grasag.
Now, away from that, the National Cathedral Secretariat has denied reports that it has paid over 100 million Ghana cedis to the architect constructing the project. The Secretariat says media reports that Sir David Ajay has been paid 128 million cedis for no job are untrue. Executive Director of the Secretariat, Dr. Kusi Opoku Mensah, says the only people paid so far are the consultants working on the project.
In the case of the amount paid to the consultants, this included a list of all the companies in the consultants team. I read, for emphasis, I read the list of these companies to the Parliamentary Subcommittee on Trade, Industry and Tourism on December 15, 2022. We did this because there was this assertion that we had paid the architect. I wanted to inform them with the documentation that the architect doesn't have a contract. So what exists is a contract for consultant services, almost about 30 services that were all provided to Parliament, with about 15 international and Ghanaian companies who are the recipient of that amount. Sir David Ajay does not have a contract. There's no contract for an architect. There's a contract for consultancy services with all this company. While a project of this nature will always have its discontents, we are nonetheless concerned about the misrepresentations, particularly when it comes from members of Parliament. For instance, the continuous misrepresentation of the contract to the consultants is worrying, as none of the amounts bandied around comes anywhere near the contract amount. Rather than 34%, that was said, we said we had paid the architect 34%, actually the contract figure is 12.5%. When
Dr. Kusi Opoku Mensah is the Executive Director at the National Cathedral Secretariat. You're still listening to the Citi Prime News, which is live from our studios at Adabraka in Accra. Still ahead in the bulletin, Minority predicted further depreciation of the local currency from January to June before a possible IMF board approval in the second quarter of this year. Do stay with us. We have details of that and more shortly.
Citi Prime News at 12 midday. Update you on all the running stories and connects you to the newsmakers.
Many thanks for staying with us. Now, the minority in Parliament says the Ghana cedi is expected to depreciate further from January this year to June before a possible IMF board approval in the second quarter of 2023. The group says Ghana's economy will record one of the worst non-oil GDP growths due to the impact of the debt restructuring measures of the government and other harsh fiscal and monetary policies. The ranking member on the Finance Committee of Parliament, Dr. Kiselatu Forson, in a social media post projected a bleak economy for the year 2023. Here are excerpts of the statement read by Citi News' Ni Ayikwe Okai.
The haircut on domestic bonds and Eurobond is expected to adversely impact the health of the banking sector, local businesses and individuals. Also, bilateral debt restructuring will lead to government's foreign finance projects being abandoned. Unemployment will worsen due to the freeze on employment, debt restructuring, poor business climate and massive austerity. Ghana will default in the payment of interest and principal on domestic bonds and Eurobonds and most of our bilateral loans in 2023. These will be compounded by the following: expected layoffs from the financial sector due to the impact of the debt restructuring and expected layoffs from government foreign finance projects. The complete reversal of discounts on import values on goods and vehicles, coupled with the introduction of the 2.5% increase in VAT and other taxes on businesses, will keep prices of goods and services high, and in some cases higher than current prices. Also, government's policy of automatic adjustment of electricity tariffs will exacerbate the high cost of living in 2023. Inflation is expected to be above 30% for the most part of 2023. Government's gold for oil policy will not make any major impact on the price of petroleum products. The cedi will inevitably depreciate further from January to June.
You had excerpts of a statement by the ranking member on the Finance Committee of Parliament, Dr. Kiselatu Forson, on the outlook of the country's economy, read by Citi News' Ni Ayikwe Okai.
Now, the Ghana Union of Traders Association, GUTA, has called for a total reform in the implementation of the value-added tax VAT to enhance compliance. Their call follows the implementation of the increase in the VAT rate from 12.5% to 15% effective January 1st, 2021. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has indicated that the increase is expected to yield 2.7 billion Ghana cedis, which will be used to augment funding for road infrastructure development. GUTA, however, warned that the failure to reform the system may not yield the expected results. In an interview with Citi News, President of GUTA, Dr. Joseph Obeng, said an increase in VAT will only worsen the plight of businesses and consumers in Ghana.
The demand for roads has become the cry of many communities in the country. Unfortunately, with the current economic difficulties and the absence of dedicated sources of funding for roads construction, it is difficult to meet all these demands. In that regard, we are proposing implementation of the new revenue measure. The major one is an increase in the VAT rate, 2.5 percentage points, to help with roads and technology improvement. This increase is expected to yield 2.7 billion, which will be used, as I mentioned, to augment funding for our road infrastructure development and digitalization. This will be complemented by a major compliance program to ensure that we derive the maximum yields from existing revenue handles.
That was Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta.
Now, stakeholders in the petroleum sector are confident of stable prices of fuel products within the first quarter of 2023. Prices of petroleum products went down in the first pricing window of 2023, with petrol selling at 12 cedis 40 pesos and diesel going for 14 cedis 60 pesos at most pumps across the country. The following report has more details on the factors accounting for the reduction and the optimism of cheaper cost of petroleum products.
One of the sectors that may have witnessed or recorded the highest frequency of price fluctuations in 2022 will be the petroleum sector, beginning the year from about 6 Ghana cedis per litre for petrol, jumping to about 17 Ghana cedis per litre for petrol, and even up to 21 cedis per litre for diesel. This generally had an impact on all other sectors of the economy, contributing to the hikes in prices of goods and services. Towards the end of the year 2022, a number of policy interventions were announced, some by the president, including plans to bring in cheaper fuel, as well as a gold for oil program that will ensure a reduction in the prices of petroleum products. In December, entering into the new year 2023, we've seen a reduction of prices of fuel at the pumps. It's come all the way down to about 12 cedis 40 pesos per litre as at January 2, 2023. What is accounting for the reduction in fuel prices? Will the trend continue throughout the first quarter of the year 2023? We'll speak to the various stakeholders to get an understanding of why the prices of fuel are dropping. Mr. Kwaku is the Chief Executive of the Association of Oil Marketing Companies. What is accounting for this reduction that we're seeing?
Well, basically, one of the things which are happening, which is on our side, is the fact that the fluctuations are gone now. Secondly,
when we say fluctuations, are we referring to the CD dollar issue?
Yes. And also the price of the commodity itself is not been fluctuating that much. Then the second thing is that you have also seen, over a period, we saw the CD also picking up its value. Now, as we are coming down here, the CD is also losing its value. But the point is, we have the market forces also helping us in that regard, because there had not been enough demand because of Chinese people, their problem, so at least it's helping.
Let's bring you the perspective of consumers. Duncan Amwa is the Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers.
Some OMCs are doing very good. I hate to continuously mention Star Oil because it looks as though they are quite price sensitive. However, even the bigger three that one would have expected to get reductions from, Guao just did about 1 cedi further on petrol and diesel. We would expect that around this time, Guao, Shell, Total, Allied is also doing very well already. But the bigger three, you would have expected to see around 10, 11. Unfortunately, what you have now is a 12.4 situation for petrol. We would continue to engage them and hope that they let the reductions reflect. The difference in pricing, however, is accounted for by those paying cash for products and then those also buying on credit. The bigger OMCs are not being as efficient as we would love to see them with their pricing. If you have Star currently doing 10.99, at least if it was even 11.9 for Goil, a 1 cedi gap, that would have meant something. But above 12.4, clearly, there's a bit more efficiency that we would need to see from, the Shell, Total, Goil pricing kind of range.
The Institute for Energy Securities predicted the reduction. We want to find out, as it is now, is this sustainable?
When it comes to the oil market or the fuel market, it's quite fluid because the market, in terms of supply and pricing, key factors influence that. And depending on where the direction of these factors, it might have either a positive impact or negative impact for either producers or consumers. Yes, we've seen on the various billboards that prices have come down on account of reduction in international fuel prices and also the significant appreciation of the Ghanaian cedi against the important currency, the dollar. That's what we are seeing at the pump, though not so significant as we have wished to see it. To say whether it's sustainable, we will have to look at a lot of factors outside the country and within the country. Outside the country, of course, it is the direction of fuel prices that will dictate, or crude oil. Many things are happening currently on the international market. We have the Europe embargo on Russia in terms of trying to ask its members not to patronize Russia's oil by sea. Within our own local markets, one key variable that impacts on consumers is the value of our local currency against the importing currency. And so if the cedi keeps on appreciating or maintaining its value against the US dollar, then of course consumers will have some form of respite and will be cushioned. But if the reverse happens, of course, then it means that the BDCs or the importers will have to burn more cedis to just raise the dollar and make sure that they can bring the quantity of oil or fuel that they need to bring in.
Let's now speak to the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distribution. They are the actual importers of petroleum products into the country for their projections for the year 2023. And then we speak to the regulator, the National Petroleum Authority, on how the market is expected to behave in the year under review.
Currently, the World Bank has projected a slow economic growth in 2023, indicating that demand for oil will most likely fall. Once such falls happens, then we can all anticipate that such demand would definitely correspond to pricing. And that we have situations in China, which is currently causing a lot of demand issues. And with China increasing its renewables by 15% in 2022, And if that's also to take a significant portion in their crude demand, then clearly 2023 prices will go a bit down because there wouldn't be that much importation from China. Basically, some of our members have been very proactive and innovative in trying to find innovative ways of landing products that will be competitive, because we also know that the government will also be landing certain products that relatively may be cheaper. But I think overall, the consumer out there or the public will be the biggest beneficiary.
From the first window beginning yesterday, some of the OMCs have actually reviewed their prices downwards to reflect the changing dynamics in the market. It is mainly because of the weight of the cedi against the dollar and the expecting marginal fall in the price of the product in the international market. These two things combined have given us the marginal decrease in the prices of fuel, as we have seen the OMCs reflecting at their pump beginning yesterday. So going into the future, if things stay the way they are today, then certainly we should be having a fair pricing, a very good one, of course, to the good and benefit of the consumer. This good for oil, what is going to be of our advantage, particularly to the consumer, is one, the guarantee of the product in the market, and two, the possible elimination of the forward weight that is currently in the mathematics of determining how much the fuel is supposed to be sold, particularly by the BDC. You know, the BDC comes to buy, to look for the dollar, then they go into the market to look for the product. Within the circle of looking for the dollar, going to purchase the product and going back, there's a certain forecast or anticipation of the value of the dollar by the time they would have gone back to look for the product. That is within a 3-month period. And that is where the forward rate is normally determined.
My colleague Nana Tufo-Barton filed that report where stakeholders in the petroleum sector are confident of stable prices of fuel products within the first quarter of 2023.
Now, the Deputy Chief Executive Officer for the Food and Drugs Authority in charge of the Food Division, Roderick Dade Ejay, has disclosed that the whale washed ashore along the beach of Tema has been safely disposed of. He explained that the cause of death of the fish is not known, and therefore hence its consumption could have health complications.
We've not had any information of that happening. And remember, we are working using the National Food Safety Response Plan, where we collaborate amongst ourselves. So, like the local government, as well as also like fisheries, we are all on the lookout. It has been the people cooperated with us. We don't have any information about anybody going to take up anything. It's been safely disposed. That's why the expression is safely disposed. Safely disposed, and people have cooperated with us, and we are happy about that.
Deputy Chief Executive Officer for the Food and Drugs Authority, Roderick Dade Ejay.
The commanding officer of the 66th Artillery Regiment of the Ghana Armed Forces, Lieutenant Colonel Edward Sapong Apia, has assured the public of continuous efforts to maintain peace and order in the Volta and Oti regions and also fight against external forces. Addressing officers of the various security services at the end of year inter-security agencies fun games activities held in Ho, Lieutenant Colonel Edward Sapong Apia said there is the need for a comprehensive collaboration between the security services.
Now, the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, says it has replaced all stolen and vandalized transformers in the Tema enclave. This follows reports of the stealing of transformers in the Prampram and Afienya districts, which caused an erratic supply of power to residents. Speaking to City News, the Tema Regional Police Public Relations Officer of the ECG, Sechua Mensah, indicated that power has been restored to the affected areas while investigations are currently ongoing to fish out the perpetrators of the crime.
With regards to the stolen transformers and those which have been vandalized as well, we've been able to replace all of them. So the customers that those transformers were serving are on supply. They have power. We've also made reports to the police, so they are handling the investigations. Yes, we've been able to replace all of them, and all the customers are on supply at the moment.
That was the Tema Regional Public Relations Officer of the ECG, Sechua Mensah.
This is still the Citi Prime News with me, Wilma Obobisa Coleman, and Charles Owusu-Kumi. Still ahead, industry watchers in Ghana's petroleum sector skeptical about government's gold for oil policy. We'll bring you details of this and others shortly. Do stay with us.
Citi Prime News at 12 midday. Update you on all the running stories and connects you to the newsmakers.
Dakar, Senegal, the city full of art like an open gallery, the city that harbors the pristine beaches of the West. Dakar, Senegal, the city that you can now get to faster. Fly to Dakar, Senegal from Accra 2 times a week with Kenya Airways. Visit www.kenya-airways.com or contact the Kenya Airways sales office to book a seamless flight from Accra to Dakar and over 40 other destinations. Kenya Airways, connecting Africa to the world and the world to Africa.
Citi Prime News at 12 midday. Update you on all the running stories and connects you to the newsmakers.
Yeah, welcome back. Now, industry watchers in Ghana's petroleum sector are skeptical about government's gold for oil policy. The government in November 2022 announced plans to buy oil products with gold rather than dollar reserves in order to reduce demand for forex and ensure availability of cheaper petroleum products. With the first consignment of oil expected to hit the shores of Ghana by close of January, stakeholders in the sector are demanding for transparency from government. There's more in the following report.
The price of petroleum products increased astronomically in 2022, with a ripple effect on the cost of transportation and general goods. The country's currency also depreciated rapidly against the US dollar in the third quarter of 2022, owing to increased demand for dollars by oil importers, among other factors. As part of measures to address these challenges, the government announced the Gold for Oil policy, a barter trade which, when implemented according to government, would prevent the exchange rate from directly impacting fuel or utility prices. The government expects to receive the first crude oil products in January 2023, following the operationalization of its Gold for Oil policy. However, industry watchers have raised concerns with the route taken by the government. The Africa Center for Energy Policy, ACEP, said in a statement, the policy will undoubtedly not achieve its objective, but will only hand the control of Ghana's gold and oil value chain to politicians. The executive director of the Institute for Energy Security, Nana Amoisi VII, is asking for transparency in the exchange, saying the policy is rigged with so many uncertainties.
We are concerned about the barter arrangement. For every barter arrangement, somebody have to lose. You can't have equal for equal in a barter agreement. And so one will have thought that a government wants to mop up our domestic gold just to put into Bank of Ghana's votes to shore up our currency. It is good. But then when you raise the gold and you want to use it to buy oil, our first question is gold not dollars? Why don't you sell your gold and raise your dollars so that the importers can have access to the dollars when payments fall due for the IOCs? When we saw the scheme and the introduction of an agency or an intermediary, the first question we ask is, who is the intermediary? It must be named. And for God's sake, we are citizens and not spectators. And so the IES will ask of government to make public that very agreement or contract that
the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC, believes the route chosen by government in the implementation of its Gold for Oil policy may not necessarily achieve the intended objectives of the policy.
Trust that we would have to interrogate this G for O policy which is about being rolled out. But as we would say, let caution prevail, so that in the opaqueness of the program, we don't allow for siphoning of our gold resources unnecessarily. And again, we also don't get in, and because we are talking of butter, which in itself is not an equitable, economic activity, we don't allow the one from whom we want to pick the oil or the intermediary to shortchange all of us. We say that gold has real-time value. You could trade the gold, keep the money in an offshore, just like you want to do with the intermediary, and use that same money to import the oil without it coming through Bank of Ghana if you wanted. So as to what the real dynamics are, trust that we'll interrogate it.
The Chief Executive Officer of the Association of Oil Marketing Companies, Kweku Agyeman-Dua, is, however, optimistic of some level of price stability in the sector following the operationalization of the policy.
For us, Ghana, if we are doing the good for oil, it's going to have a modulating effect on the pricing. When it's a modulating effect, even if the pricing are just stringing, what is going to happen is that we'll have a modulating effect with the gold, because we will have secured a place for our oil, which will be having a relationship with the gold that we send away. So it's not going to be jacketed around. So it's something that we have to all be watching for. The only thing that we have to do is make sure that the right framework is put in place, and we be able to get through with that and monitor it closely. Being a new thing that we are trying to do, that's what I'm saying. That we need to be vigilant. In fact, if you put a new thing in place, you either maintain high standards, or we try to do something and steady it before we try to tighten things. But I think we should try and tighten it early, so that there are no miscreants in the system which will torpedo all the efforts that we have made and come back to square one.
Ghana produces crude oil, but relies heavily on imports for refined petroleum products. This has led to increased calls for the revival of the Tema Oil Refinery, which is currently struggling to stay afloat. For Citi News, my name is Nanatufo Boateng.
We now head to Kumasi, where management of the zoo there says it has recorded unprecedented patronage during the Christmas and New Year period. In 2022, 150,000 persons visited the facility, which is over 100% improvement on the 2021 figure of 72,000. The management has attributed the sharp increase in patronage to some renovation works done and the introduction of iconic animals in the facility. Our Middlebury Bureau Chief Edward Opomafo reports.
The Kumasi Zoo is fast regaining its status as one of the best tourist areas within the Ashanti region, and a lot of people come here during holidays. As we're in the Christmas and the New Year festivities, a lot of people have been coming around to have fun. Family members, churches, and various groups have taken advantage of it, and they find it very exciting to come around.
We are here with our kids, the children liturgy, to educate them and also have fun with them. Very nice, and we are all happy. We are all happy. Yes! Yeah. So we are happy, and we are praying that things should also move on well with them.
Today, because of the holiday, I decided to come here with my kids, together with my wife. So we just came here to, just to make fun, right? And if you look at the place, I came here the last time, but the place wasn't like this. 6-7 years ago, yes, I came here, but it wasn't like this. But today, if you look at the place, it's so nice. It's so nice. And you see that we have a lot of animals also here.
We came on an excursion to check how the animals rotate here. And we wanted to know more about animals. That's why we came here.
But how has it been for the kids so far?
Oh, it's very interesting. They are having some fun. They are communicating, asking questions about the animals. So we are having fun.
And how do you see the facility? Are you enjoying what you see here?
Oh, the facility is very great. Even we didn't imagine that it's like this. But it's very interesting. We are enjoying it.
My daughter wants to come and see how we see here. So I just brought my daughter here to come and see see some animals. So we went there to see the snake. The snake too is big, so we're a little afraid of it.
But are you enjoying what you see? How's it for you?
A little better. I'm enjoying it a little bit.
It's good. It's a learning place, especially for the kids. They learn a lot of things at school, just the book work. But when you come here, you see the animals yourself. So it's very good. So that everybody should come, the school, the churches. At least we should bring our children here so they will come and learn, not only in the classroom, but physically see what we are talking about.
I've been joined by the manager of the Kumasi Zoo to find out how the patronage has been and also to get to know how they are trying to make this place exciting for those who patronize.
It's been very, very wonderful. The zoo has seen unprecedented increment of visitors, and getting to the end of the year, which is the last quarter of the year, and December in particular, we've actually seen so many visitors come to the zoo from all over the country, from the northern sector, western, eastern, southern, and Asantuma itself. So it's been very, very good for us. We are so excited about it.
So what are you doing to attract a lot of people to come here?
Yes, so the management of the Forestry Commission has really deliberately put in efforts to refurbish the zoo. We know the zoo is about 65 years old, and therefore some of our cages are actually out of date. We didn't have a very good collection of animals. And then there were efforts to bring in iconic animals like the lions and then other animals. We're even currently working on to bring zebras and other iconic animals to attract more customers. So a lot of work has been done. To some construction works are still ongoing. You can see the pavement are being worked on so that they are also disability user friendly, so that when disabled people come here, they can also tour the zoo with their wheelchairs and other things. So a lot of work is ongoing to attract more visitors to the zoo.
The management of the zoo is urging members of the general public and various institutions to collaborate with them in achieving the objectives.
We will keep on calling on people to come to the support of Kumasi Zoo. Most zoos all over the world are actually supported by private individuals, non-governmental organizations. They support the efforts of government to do or to carry out the purpose of a zoo, which is one, conservation education. I think as we went around, you've seen a lot of visitors here. They are not just having fun, but they're also learning on how to protect the animals that we keep in the zoo. It's also a place you can see the natural and serene environment. I always call Kumasi Zoo the garden within the garden city. You see the free roaming wildlife. I think we just saw some vultures that are preying on a dead bat. To us, that is very, very exciting because of late, population of vultures have really dwindled. But if you come here, we've protected them, and then their numbers are increasing. And as the numbers increase, they will fly out and to complement the already dwindling populations out there. Schools and university students also come here to carry out research, and we are so excited that such things happen. So we keep on calling on these people to come, and we will support them to do whatever they want to do.
Artists have also taken advantage of the period to come to the Kumasi Zoo because many children have been coming around and they have been painting the faces of these children to put smiles on their faces at a fee.
I'm an artist, graduated from KNUST, I think last 2 years. Yeah. And I did my 7 in the same school as teaching assistant. Actually, I've not chosen to do this. But you know, as an artist, you have to be versatile. You have to open up for the season. There are new things, new innovation that people are doing. So basically, what I'm after is to flow with the current trend that is going on. And you know, we are in the festive season, so I just want to also bring out my creativity and my innovation. So I saw the zoo managers, we talked with them, and I made them know the plan that I have, that at least I can also bring this in on board. And they gave me the chance to do.
Giving this facility a facelift has helped in increasing patronage. Once it is given the needed attention, a lot more people will be interested in coming here. For Citi News, I'm Edward Upon Malfo, Kumasi Zoo.
We'll stay a little while longer in the Ashanti region because the Asantehene Otumfuo Osei Tutu II has admonished Ghanaian youth. The Asantehene Otumfuo Osei Tutu II had admonished Ghanaian youth to decline offers by politicians and political parties which intend to use them to foment trouble, especially during elections. He said the youth must constantly engage in activities that will promote peace and stability in their communities and refrain from acts that could have negative consequences on their future. City News' Ashanti regional correspondent Hafiz Tijani reports.
For Osei Tutu II, in a speech read on his behalf, he says that the youths are agents of development in their various communities and should always resist attempts to be used in political hooliganism.
The Otumfuo Osei Tutu, the Asantehene, wish to admonish the youth to resist every attempt to be engaged in political hooliganism, which can result in unpleasant consequences in their future. It is by this that His Royal Majesty Otumfuo Osei Tutu II, who wish that the occasion is equally used to educate or advise the youth to take advantage of his educational trust fund to enhance their knowledge, to become useful citizens in the communities as well as in Ghana.
Otumfuo's representatives who spoke during the 2022 annual Quran recitation and Islamic prayer for the nation called for unity among religious groups in Ghana.
Pertinent program of this caliber should be used to formulate unity between Muslims, Christians and other religious bodies in the Ashanti Kingdom as well as in Ghana and the global community. This unity between countries, religious, political and to some extent traditional leaders in the world have seen a lot of breach of peace which has resulted to civil unrest, leading to destruction of environments, economic infrastructures, unwarranted death to men, women, and children, as well as retardation of national progress, which takes several years to be rebuilt.
The annual event is spearheaded by a youth leader of the Zongo community, Ali Suraj, who says the event aims to promote national unity and cohesion.
This is for Ghana. I don't want anybody to take it as because I'm MPP, that's why I'm organizing it. But it's the leader that I'm following. He was the one that is always encouraging us that we should not forget about our religion. We should not forget about where we come from. So this prayer is for the nation. I don't think I have anything to say than to thank Almighty Allah for this opportunity. We all know what we are going on, the country has been going on. So I know with prayer, inshallah, it's going to be okay, it's going to be well, and the thing will be changed. The Zongo should always show a leadership of example.
Ashanti regional correspondent Hafiz Tijani filed that report, and that's all time will allow us for on the Citi Prime News, which has been live from our studio at Adabraka in Accra. For more news, please log on to our website, citinewsroom.com. We were also live on all our partner stations. In the Western region, we're on Adrimpa 100.7 FM in Takwa Beach, 105.5 FM in Takrady. In the Bono region, we're on Greener FM, 95.9 FM in Sunyani. In the Ashanti region, you are listening to us, or you heard us from Focus 94.3 FM and Orange 107.9 FM, all in Kumasi. In the Volta region, we're on Revival 99.3 FM in Tajewu and VOV Radio 95.7 in Hohoi. In the Northern region, you're listening to us on Radio Bimbula 91.9 FM. In the Upper East, we're on Quality 88.7 FM in Garu, and in the Upper West region, we're on Tunsong 97.3 FM in Wa. You can log on to our website, citinewsroom.com. My name is Wilma Obubi-Sakoman, and this afternoon I did this with
Charles Owusukumi.
Up next is the afternoon's edition of the City Business News with Michael Obudu. Many thanks for your time and have a good afternoon.
City 97.3. More variety. The city is alive.